No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I'm Gabby. Hi.
Hi, Gabby. And we are voice actors
We are.
who have going on little to no sleep.
Oh,
And
you
we
poor
are
thing.
so excited to be here. It is Monday.
It is short week too.
Welcome. It is a short week. Happy early 4th of July. Very
Mhm.
excited about that. And we have so many, we've been talking about it a lot. And so we're not going to continue, although we will, but not today. We've got another topic, but we're talking so much, a lot, so exciting about so much that's happening over at VO Journey Academy.
Mhm.
So make sure, I mean, we've been meetings nonstop. We're just so
Oh
many
my god.
amazing things coming up. And that's all starting next week. So join 50% off to try us for the first month, and you'll never want to leave ever. So make sure you join.
Yeah.
Today, of course, we've got to go through the hoopla. Make sure you like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Also, hit that bell notification, hit
Ooh.
all so that you know when we go live.
Leave us a
And
message in the chat. Leave us
yes,
your questions. Yeah.
we love to hear them. Hey, everybody, we get some people ready. We've got John, we've got, what is it? Strange Storm Cat.
Yeah.
What is that name? We
I
got
don't
Jeremy from Austin, Texas. Good to see you all. What are we talking
know.
about today, Gabby? What's our topic?
So we were asked last week about multilingual and foreign voice acting, and I think that that's a spectacular topic. Even though neither one of us is fully fluent in a second language,
See?
I've spent so much time in the casting chair. I'm very familiar with this topic, and it's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree because we as things expand more and more, one thing that we've, even at VOJ, right? It's when we have voice actors from all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
and many of them are bilingual, and they typically. So this is
Mm-hmm.
my first question for you, Gabby, on this topic.
Sure.
Typically, many bilingual voice actors, at least that we've worked with or I've worked with, right? They primarily are trying to sell in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it is what it is. It's still the U.S. market is still probably the largest market. Let's be honest. For one singular country, right? And but the question I always get, is I'm bilingual. I also have an accent.
Mm-hmm.
How do I market myself with that type of accent? And should I be trying to have more of an American accent, or should I keep my
Yes.
accent? So I know there's a couple questions there, but why don't you start with that from the lens of a casting director?
Yeah, I mean, so they're all great questions. So the starting point is you are going to be most marketable in the language of your origin. So wherever you are from, whatever your first language is or was, that is likely going to be where you have the most um marketability. Now, this is where again multilingual, bilingual, it's all very fascinating. So on one hand, this also addresses the accent situation because many times it's not to say there isn't work to be had for people in English with an accent, but it's limiting. It's not as you're not going to see as many requests. You're not going to see a steady flow of work. You have a much better probability of gaining steady work in the language of your origin. And depending on how unique that language is, right? How accessible, how often it is requested. I mean, you always end up with two situations. One is foreign language requests that are common, and therefore there's a ton of work to be had. And then the other is when, oh my goodness, my keyboard is having a fit.
It's like,
What
what's
is
going
going
on over
on?
there?
Oh my gosh. I have my keyboard is literally having a fit. I might have to leave
That's
and
like
come
that.
back. I don't know what's
It's like
going on.
that cat thing where the
I
it
think
wakes up.
I just had to turn it off. Oh my God, that's so weird.
That's so
Um,
weird. That's
the
like when my
other
mouse goes off.
situation is that you speak a language that's very rare,
Mm.
and therefore it's worth a lot more money because there are not enough qualified voice actors in that language, and you may not work very often, but when you do, holy cow, it can be worth a ton of money. And then we get into the people who really do have the ability to go accentless with their English, but then also offer the foreign language. And that's fascinating because typically, like with Spanish language, those are usually people who are second generation. You know, they're born in the US, they're raised here, but they grew up speaking Spanish in the home. They're definitely influenced by their parents' dialect, but they are considered a more neutral speaker on both ends. And so, if that's the case, you would market yourself simply as a bilingual talent, US born. You're not going to carry the same authenticity. That's the only problem. You're not going to come to the table with the same authenticness that you're going to see with someone who was born and raised elsewhere, but it doesn't mean it's not valuable. There are still job opportunities for you. There are still plenty of places where folks will say, yes, I want to hire one actor to do both languages. So
Yes.
there's a lot to consider there. And I always find it slightly fascinating. I'm also going to try to turn on my keyboard again, see what happens. I also find it really fascinating when people are bilingual and they don't talk about it, or they
Oh
don't
my
put
goodness, yes.
a big
Yeah.
emphasis on it in their voice acting career. I'm like, what are
Yes.
you doing? I'm like,
Yes.
that's a big deal. Like you're
It's huge.
right. Why would you limit yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Academy Voices, we've had businesses, organizations come to us looking for a variety of different voice actors who speak different languages. And
Mm.
it's interesting because one that I didn't even think of, but it makes perfect sense, right? Was the Flight Attendants Association or something about. Anyways, we had a company that comes out who was doing work for airports, or it's the airport thing, and basically, different airports across the world, right? They're gonna
Hmm.
have different languages, right? I mean, and all this thing, and they were wanting to cast different voices, for the whether it was a training, like a training module, or like a welcome aboard kind of something. But I mean, like there's a lot of this, that goes around outside, out there that you might not think about. You might think, oh, I got to sell in the U.S. But I tell people, I'm
Mm.
like, wow, you speak multiple languages. I would have if you speak
Right?
two languages, you should first and foremost you should have demos in that language, no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should have demos in that languages, no matter what. Like you should. I've seen people just like you said, they just do English. They won't do anything else. And I'm like, you speak like four languages. I would
Hmm.
die to do that. Like, put it out there because. So here's a perfect example. People are. So they found Academy Voices.
Mm.
Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong. Like, it's not like we're hard to find. We're not. But this was when we were first. One of the things we were first starting too. And why am I bringing that up? Because these people were searching and searching to
Hmm.
find these voices because they're not so readily available, which is what Gabby
Isn't
said, which
that
makes you
wild?
rare, which then makes you more marketable, makes you more unique and special, valuable,
Hmm.
right? So your website, you should be, the keywords promoting these things. I mean, the coolest thing about what we do, I think, is that we are global without even trying hard.
Yes.
And but sometimes we limit ourselves,
Hmm.
not thinking that we're global,
Yeah.
right? We I think we've gone out more than thinking local, but I think we think more in regional, more in like our little couple of states area, instead of thinking
Hmm.
national and
Yeah,
international.
for sure.
Yeah.
Even if you are partially fluent, mostly fluent, there is still application there. Audiobooks alone, right? There's loads of situations
Oh
where you
yeah.
have a character
Oh yeah.
that speaks a little bit of a certain language. If you are proficient enough for that, That's marketable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyable. So like I know accent wise, I'll go in the car. My wife loves to listen to audiobooks
Mm-hmm.
from women who have different accents, not
Oh
English, like
yeah.
not American accent.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean? So there's different. I mean, and I'm learning that more now because of the fact that because now it's available
Mm-hmm.
because we're available.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get yourself out there that you're doing that, especially with accents, because we like to listen to variety.
Mm-hmm.
We want to listen to variety. That's a really good point, Gabby, that you brought up. Audiobooks I mean, it's a big thing. And here's another thing. I am looking for people who speak different languages to
Mm-hmm.
narrate a ton of audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And sometimes I do wonder, like, because I find someone like, I didn't know you spoke XYZ. You never said that
Mm-hmm.
you spoke a different language. Oh yeah, I'm fluent in this thing. What?
Yeah.
Because your English your English might your accent might be very American or very British, and we don't know you speak a different language. You know what I mean?
And there's something to be said for, again, the accent, the authenticity, even if it's for an
Yes.
English speaking role, accent casting has gotten so specific in the
Yeah.
last 5 years, that it used to be you could muddle through certain
Right.
types of accents if they weren't genuine. And now,
So,
that's a big to do. So,
oh,
if
absolutely.
you go like, well, I'm not, my parents are from Poland, so I can really imitate their accent. Brilliant. That's
Mhm.
something you should be marketing.
Oh yeah, and
Um,
start looking for words like localization. So this is a word that's
mhm.
come out,
Love
right?
local. Yeah.
Right, where it said, "What are we?" This is like you'll see this in buzzwords. You'll see this on websites. You'll see this place. Hiring for localization, meaning we want to hire people from a certain area. Like big companies will come out and say, "We want to do a international ad, and we want to
Mhm.
target 50 different countries,
Yeah.
but we want local." So localization is basically we want locals or people who have that sort of
Mhm.
accent. Here's the thing, though. Don't forget just what Gabby said. Is that we're actors. So if you can imitate it realistically,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it comes across that way, that's great. You don't have to live there.
Yeah.
But what they're trying to say is like, for example, I'll talk to some people and be like, I have, like, for example, I could say a few things in Spanish, but it's clearly I am of
It's
the
clearly coming
accent.
from a gringo.
Right, exactly, right. It's not going to be realistic, you know what I mean? And I come across very caricature because I'm a big over the
Mhm.
top character actor, right? So but it's not. I'm not going to be someone who's going to come across as realistic. So if you
Mhm.
can do that, remember we're actors. So that's an
Yeah.
important part, even though some people sometimes don't think that way. We're actors.
Yeah, there's also something to be said for, and this is again where there's uniqueness within the use of foreign language speakers with US jobs.
Mm,
Clients are really interesting in that sometimes they will put out things like, we're looking for an accent that's ambiguous, right? Maybe it's European, maybe it's Arabic, maybe it's right. We don't want to be able to readily tell where this
right.
person is from. And unlike something like, okay, let's use Australian as an example, right? Australia, there's a very, very specific accent there,
Yes.
but you might have like Croatia, for instance.
Hmm.
A Croatian accent would be very, very difficult for an American to peg and to be able to tell where it was from. So that can be something you can use to your advantage. No.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would agree. You've got a lot of Eastern European countries too, and I work with a
Hmm.
lot of. I think we work with a lot of voice actors who do have that hard to place accent because
Yeah.
you might be from this area, but you moved and you've lived here for 40 years
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
30 years in this
Yep.
area, and you moved over here, and our accents are we have influences from all over the world, right? That turn into whatever we speak like at that moment in time.
I was having a conversation with a friend this weekend. He was telling me about a friend of his who's from France, but has also lived in the South for many, many years. And I'm like, oh God, are you about to tell me that this person has a French Southern American hybridized accent.
That's
And I'm like,
wild.
that's crazy. But yeah, that's exactly
I
what
was just
happened.
trying to think of how to. Well,
Yeah.
there's some fascinating things about historically accents from people migrating from one place to another and how
Hmm.
they have anyways, the point is that I yeah, absolutely, there's
Yeah.
so much of that, and you find those people are being hired more and more for just general. Here's a perfect example. The other day on TV, I just watched TV and I heard, and I've heard it a bunch of times, but it was a ad on TV for a medical ad for some medicine,
Mm.
and it was the first time I've ever heard one, the US, and the woman who was doing it clearly had an Eastern European accent. It
Mm.
was not an American accent. It was perfectly fine, but I noticed it because I'm a voice actor and I was listening and
Hmm.
it's like, oh,
Hmm.
that's really interesting that this person. Now, does that mean like they decided to do that because the company was from that area, or they were just putting it out there because they want to try something different to get shot? I don't know, but it worked. It was fine. She did a great job, but it was not American. And I think, we are the melting pot that, I think it's going to just continue to be like that. But it just made me think about it. I even said it to my wife. I was like, that's really interesting because it wasn't an American accent, but it was a mainstream American TV ad, right? Which are what our biggest
Mm.
mainstream ads in our country are the medical ads.
Yeah, of
That's what
course.
it is, medicines, right?
But
But
ADR,
yeah,
ADR is another big area. I was watching, I had to do it. I had to do it. I was watching the Netflix documentary about the poop cruise over the weekend, about the Carnival Cruise Line that was stuck at sea with no power and it
did
became
you?
a disaster back in 2013.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of interviews with the staff, and the staff are from all over the globe. So you had on camera, right, these interviews happening with people from India and from the UK, and there was a woman from Eastern Europe, and in the back of my head, all I'm thinking is, man, the ADR needs in this thing are epic because if by some chance, right, they get back in the editing something's wrong with the audio, same thing. There's loads of opportunities for accented speakers to step in and to do ADR work and to, like write all these
So
really cool things.
I'm thinking because we're almost at our time.
Yeah.
How about for next time? I would love to speak about ADR.
Okay.
You know what I mean, right? And talk about,
Cool.
because I
We can
think a
talk
lot of times
ADR tomorrow.
some people are like they don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
How do you, what? How do you even begin to think about getting work that way? So I think that would be
I
a
also want to
cool thing.
go back and visit localization because
Definitely.
I've been savvy to localization for like 20 years and I'm always amazed how many people aren't. So yeah.
Well, and you have to think, remember localization too. I was bringing it up as an accents to or languages across the world, but you had
Mhm.
localization fits to every country. We know, like in the U.S. or
Mhm.
countries around. I mean, even look at
Mhm.
the U.K.
Yeah,
Right? You're going to have all of these spots in different places in the UK where there's accents are different,
absolutely.
right? Where they have a little bit of different type of accent or a big difference. Same in the U.S.
Mhm.
Every country, and that's what they mean by localization. So, like you go out, maybe it's an ad directly for in New York City.
Right.
That's going to be a very specific type of accent, right? Although in New York City, it's such a big melting pot, but you know what I mean, right? Or
Yeah,
down south, or
sure.
out west, or the Midwest.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So I
Yep.
like that. Good
Yeah.
topics. We've got some good topics
Cool.
for the week.
All
All
right.
right, you
Well,
guys.
happy Monday, everybody.
Yes, happy Monday. Have a great week. Go out there and get them and check out VOjourney.com. We'd love to have you so much. We have our new semester starting. Incredible. Like we literally have 12 new we rebuilt the academy and it's just bigger and better. We have
Mhm.
5 professors now.
Mhm.
All new classes, just incredible, very exciting. So you guys have a wonderful Monday. Bye, everybody. Talk
See you
to you
tomorrow.
later. Goodbye. 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 I've got to hit the stop button,
No,
everybody. That's
well, that